The reaction to the Derek Chauvin verdict announced yesterday, and when we booked my friend T.D. Jakes, the best-selling author, I think 40 books right now, 80 million hear his voice every day. We were just planning for him to come on, not timing it to this event, but he was kind enough to come on, discuss his book, discuss the reaction to the Chauvin verdict, and much more. Bishop, very good to have you.
Thank you, Neil. It's a pleasure to see you again.
You know, I always learn a lot with your books, but this one, Don't Drop the Mic, The Power of Your Words Could Change the World. You actually begin quite early in the book discussing not speaking at all, that there is an obligation we listen to one another. You say, we have an obligation to hear as much as we speak, to think before we rant, to allow what connects us to overcome what divides us. I fear the public discourse has in some way been diminished while data acquisition has become more refined. I could extend it to violent and testy reactions on both sides after this Chauvin verdict. What do you think?
You know, I'm advocating for communication, and communication is difficult. Don't Drop the Mic is all about the laborious process of talking to people outside of your comfort zone, and more importantly, listening to people outside of your comfort zone rather than waiting on them to stop speaking so that you can go back to your traditional talking points, and allowing the conversation to evolve. Quick thing I think is important to look at when we look at the trial, the Chauvin trial. You had police officers, you had people who were on the street, you had a very diverse jury look at the same thing and come away with the same conclusion, which destroys the myth that if you support being an advocate for respecting Black life, that means that you don't respect blue uniforms. The blue uniforms and the Black lives and the whites on the jury and the blacks on the jury and the biracial people on the jury and the medical professionals all came to the same consensus. That proves that it is possible to have different points of view and different history and achieve agreement, but it only happens when you listen and when you talk. And I'm afraid that America's going to drop the mic. I'm afraid that we're going to stop talking to each other and keep talking at each other.
Well, I'm in the television anchor business, as you know, Bishop, so I really don't care to listen to people as much as keep talking myself. But you did raise a very good and solid point, that we don't do enough of that. You even hearkened back to the message of Martin Luther King, which I thought was very timely, given everything that's going on, in which he said, against barking dogs and fire hoses spewing a deluge of hate in an atmosphere of unbridled violence aimed at innocent people merely exercising their First Amendment rights, Dr. King stood firm with no weapons, no army tanks, nothing but the passionate elocution electrifying his audience. And I was thinking of the back and forth on both sides, and especially in the middle of all of this, Maxine Waters' comments that might have been heartfelt, but that seemed to inspire violence. She says no, but should people be very, very careful in the middle of a trial like this and a jury deliberation saying stuff?
All of us have to be very careful. When we get it wrong, we have to get it right, and we have to be willing to correct it. But we can't stop talking because we get our hands slapped. We have to have the ability to continue the dialogue because we're not perfect, and we develop more and more as we go along. And the second thing that I want to underscore is this synergy between talking and hearing is not just metaphorically, it is literal. If you lose your ability to hear, eventually your ability to speak deteriorates. The problem with people like you and I who are constantly speaking is eventually we become tone deaf to other people talking. And so we have to make a committed effort to listen well. And I think what makes you effective is that you listen at your guests even when you don't agree with them, and you respectfully have a conversation with them, which has kept you in the business for years and years. You don't castigate your audience. That's why I'm on here right now. You don't castigate your guests, even when you disagree. That can be reduplicated in America. We don't have to all see things alike, but we have to respect each other, and we have to listen, and ultimately we have to learn from each other.
You know, Bishop, the truth is I have photographs of my bosses, but that's a whole separate issue for another interview. But I did want to get your take, because you really are a very gifted, eloquent speaker. You reach out to all sides. I was reminded again of how you were with so many different presidents of different stripes at very tenuous times, with President Bush during Katrina, Bill Clinton, right through the Monica Lewinsky affair, President Obama on a number of key times. In fact, speaking at his inauguration, which is when I heard you admit that that was a pressure cooker for you, I said, all right, well, he does get nervous sometimes. But I'm just wondering, in this environment, it's either or, it's black or white. You're either a Trump lover or a Trump hater. You're either pro-Biden or anti-Biden. I find life to be much more nuanced than that. But we get in our rigid positions, right? And I don't know if that does anyone any good.
Yes, I think we drink the Kool-Aid. We allow people to think for us. We allow people to speak for us. And if we would back away for a minute, the truth is we don't completely agree with anybody about everything, no matter who's in office. And so you take some, it's like a smorgasbord. You take this, you leave that, you take this, you leave that. And for us to pledge absolute dying allegiance to fallible human beings and fallible political entities is idolatry. It's simply idolatry. Sometimes I agree with the right, sometimes I agree with the left, sometimes I agree to stand in the middle, and sometimes I just agree to shut up. I'm complicated, and I think we're all complicated, and we're allowing people to tell us how to feel, and we're buying into that myth. And two reasons. One, because we can get news in the flavor of our choice. I call it Baskin-Robbins news. You can get the news you like the taste of. And number two, we have these phones that direct message us with the information we Google, so that all we see is reinforcement of our ideas on a continual basis. And it makes us think that our view is the world, when it is just a perspective in a much larger world. Then you call the other guy a liar because he's standing on the other end of the elephant. He's reporting a side you don't see, but it is no less true.
You know, in that very eloquent response, you addressed food issues, smorgasbord and Baskin-Robbins. That caught my attention. The one thing I didn't know, and it becomes a prominent theme in your book, especially near the end, is you're quite the chef. And there are a number of analogies drawn between your love of cooking and the cooking lessons, and how you sort that out in life, including Dr. Frank Thomas, who near the end of the book, the pastor and seminary professor, tries to meld that in to explain the process here. But could you explain that a little more detail? Because I know you say the best cooks plan meals well ahead of time. They also grow accustomed to working what they have when it comes to serving a meal, or unknown surprises. Explain that.
Well, great speaking is like great cooking. It starts in the mind. Great cooking starts in the trip to the grocery store. It doesn't start in the oven. You have to plan it out, think it out, make sure you have all the ingredients, what you're going to serve it in, when you're going to put it in, how hot it's going to be, and who you are serving. Great speaking likewise has to consider who is your audience, how long does it take to prepare it, what you're going to put in and what you're going to leave out to achieve the balance that is necessary in order to be effective. And if you're going to be a balanced person, you can't just have all salt and no pepper. And I use those metaphors because they are things that everybody can relate to give us clues that will help us to be more articulate and more diverse in our ability to reach the broader community outside of our own zip code.
Yeah, but this Frank Thomas kind of lost me when he told the story. I guess as his wife was going to move to a plant-based diet, and he said how much he loved it. I don't believe him. That sounds idiotic. There's no way you can give up meat and all that delicious stuff and like it. But I guess I'll trust you, Bishop. I guess there are people like that out there. If I could step back, Bishop, and talk about. I just wondered. I do want to get your take on what's happening to this country. I'm wondering, with the increased nastiness of incidents and even how people respond to news personalities. I get 1 or 2 nasty emails now and then. All right, maybe 1 or 2,000 every day. But my point is that I wonder if it ties in with our impatience or abandoning religion or God. And I know you draw a distinction between those who attend a church service. Not everyone can make it to your mega church, but they're hearing you and social media and all. I get that. But we're already told, there are studies out, that fewer than half Americans practice their faith or utilize that. Are you worried about that?
Of course I'm worried about it. I think it's the underbelly to a decay in our character, and not because people of faith are superior in character, but they are superior in the fact that their core values, the core values that we aspire to, whether we attain them always or not, that we aspire to, are pointed in the same direction. And it has been a unifier across many stripes that has held the glue that has held our country together. When we couldn't agree on anything else, we could agree about God. And so as that begins to erode to some degree, then it's each man to his own opinion, and he becomes his own God, and every man does what is right in his own eyes. And that, coupled with every man doing what's right and he has a gun, really paints a pretty scary picture when I look at the future. So I am worried about it. I do think that we need to get back to some element of faith and practice it. And I don't buy into the notion, however, that this is a post-Christianic society. I really don't think so. I think that people are just changing the way they ingest information. I am seeing more people, and many other pastors are telling me the same thing, than we have ever seen before because of technology. Our congregations have no walls. It's not about a church. It's not about a building. My church has been empty, or virtually empty, or nearly empty for 400 days. But all of a sudden, through technology, people have been connecting from all over the world. And this is an opportunity for religious leaders to become more diverse and to understand that you are no longer just speaking to the people who live around your church and think the way you do and dress the way you do. You're speaking to the world, and a greater diplomacy has to be ensued because your congregation is not decreasing, it's increasing, even though it's virtual. And when I say don't drop the mic, don't mess this up by have a community message and a global microphone.
But you must remember where you come from, right? I mean, you grew up in West Virginia, as you know. That's a very big coal mining state. A lot of folks there with whom I've been chatting, Bishop, are very nervous about this green energy push and how it's going to sideline them and their jobs and their future. What do you tell them in a world that constantly changes and has its economic winners and losers, that they might be, in the case of West Virginia, the short end of that stick?
I hope not. I'm from West Virginia. I love West Virginia, but I think West Virginia, before this administration and the last one and the one before that, has needed to reboot itself, retrain its people, and redirect its energies toward the future and not the past. And I don't think that that means that they have to be left behind, but like all of America, big box stores are having to change, ministries are having to change. West Virginia is going to have to provide other opportunities for that skilled workforce that they have, who have the work ethics of which I am very proud of, to be generated from that background. But we cannot insist that the world remain where it was while it's still spinning. And all of us are having to be innovative. And what West Virginia needs is innovative leadership, innovative opportunities, and competitive opportunities and futuristic goals, not insisting that we go back to what worked in 1950 and we're going to stand here and wait until the world stops spinning.
You know, Bishop, I think a theme that comes across in your book, in your life, in your sermons, and those that I've followed on social media, patience. You seem like a very patient guy. You even tell a story as a cook. I mean, if some kids or grandkids are eating all your food before it makes it to the table, you just stay calm about that, I would go nuts. If I make sausage and peppers and it doesn't make it to the table, Bishop, I am furious. Usually very furious. But you just let that go by. I make a silly point to make, I hope, a broader one, that your message is we've all got to bring it down a notch. I think that's what you're saying.
Yes. Several notches. The acrimonious remarks that we fling at people that we don't even know, defending people that we have never even met, about issues that we are not really sure that our information is even accurate. Everybody's an authority. Everybody's a journalist. Calm down. And it's okay not to know everything. It's okay to be curious. It's okay to ask questions rather than to sling statements. And I think if we do that, I don't know anything about what it's like to be a white man in America. I have to ask you. I cannot tell you. I have to ask you. You did not grow up a black man in America. You have to ask me. You can't tell me how to be black. You have to ask me, what is your reality? What is that really working like for you? And listen. And if we start doing that, Asians and South Americans and people of every walk of life, we will achieve what is necessary for the human species to survive, and that is unity.
T.D. Jakes, we needed to hear that, my friend. But still, if I drop any food before it gets to the table, I'm going to be furious. So none of this resonates when you say that. Don't drop the mic. The power of your words can change the world. It is a very, very thought-provoking book. No nastiness, no meanness. Actually very, very fair. Very, very balanced.